Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's Lunch and Learn. I'm Lauren Anderson with the International Franchise Association, and we have a great 30 minutes signed up for you. Before we begin, I would like to remind everyone that we are recording today's webinar and will make it available later this evening on franchise.org. If you have any questions for today's speaker, please add them to the Q&A box and they will be addressed toward the end. Today's topic is franchise growth in the age of AI SEO, and it is brought to us by Ignite Visibility. Here to provide today's discussion is Karen Devlin, VP of SEO at Ignite Visibility. Thank you all for joining us today, and thank you to Ignite Visibility for sponsoring today's Lunch and Learn. I'll go ahead and turn things over to you.
Great. Thanks so much, Lauren. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining. I'm Karen Devlin, Vice President of AI SEO here at Ignite Visibility. I've spent over 20 years in digital marketing, and I can honestly say I've never been more excited about where this industry is headed than I am right now. The past 12 months have brought more change and also more opportunity than the previous decade combined. So today, I want to share how those changes are reshaping search and what that means for your brand as you look to stay visible and competitive in the age of AI. Next slide, please. I love starting with this slide because I think it gives everybody a bit of a wake-up call, but no worries. We're also going to make sure that we frame this within the larger context and give you some actionable strategies. What you're seeing here is a recently released study from SEMrush. SEMrush is a leader in the organic search space. They've actually been around since 2008, and they've really pioneered much of organic search best practices. What you're seeing here, if you look at the chart, the red line is going to be search within LLMs. We can also think of this as generative search like ChatGPT. And then if we look at the blue line, this is traditional search behavior in things like Google and so forth. So you can see right off the bat that AI search behavior has the potential to overtake traditional organic search within the next 2 to 4 years. So let's take a deep breath. While the foundation of AI optimization does overlap substantially with traditional SEO, they're not exactly the same. So what I want to walk us through today is primarily understanding the differences between a Google search and a conversation in AI search. And that can be, a generative engine like ChatGPT. Next slide, please. Awesome. So here's where we're headed today. First, we're going to look at some of the biggest mistakes that franchise leaders make with AI SEO, so search engine optimization. We'll take a look at why geo-targeted SEO, particularly in the AI space, is really key. And finally, we'll uncover how AI makes it critical to position your brand through differentiation. Spoiler alert, the last part of the presentation is actually my favorite. It really gets into why it's super important to devote extra time to strategic planning. Next slide, please. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started with section 1. These are common missteps that even great brands sometimes make. And don't worry, if you recognize one of these, you're not alone. We as an industry are all still learning how to adapt to AI search. Next slide, please. All right, super. So we're going to go over 2 common mistakes. The first is thinking that you can treat AI SEO like traditional SEO. And the second, and you'll see this theme sort of repeating throughout the presentation, it happens a lot. It's believing that your domain, so yourbrand.com, is going to be enough to show up in AI responses. And next slide, please. All right. So again, let's take a deep breath. We're going to get a little bit techie just for the next 3 slides. The words themselves are very intimidating. They sound very scientific, but I promise the underlying concepts are really simple. And the reason I start with this is that it's key to understanding the differences between AI search and traditional search that will allow us to sort of follow the rest of the presentation and really have these insights come to life. So number one, it's really important to understand that a fundamental shift has happened over the past year or so as AI search has become more prominent. And this fundamental shift is the move from a deterministic system, that's traditional Google, to a probabilistic system. And the way to think about this is that within a deterministic system, your outcome is completely predictable. So think about the same input always produces the same output, just like a calculator. 2 plus 2 will always equal 4. A probabilistic system, and this is the foundation of AI engines like ChatGPT, Perplexity, etc., is that probabilistic systems are about prediction and likelihood. So in this case, we may have the same input, but depending upon the engines within inside the AI model, the same input could actually produce slightly different outputs. So understanding that difference is key. Traditional Google SEO is about certainty. 2 plus 2 equals 4. AI SEO is about influencing probability. So how does your brand influence the answer that AI search gives? And how can you get into the probability of being one of those responses? Next slide, please. All right, so let's take a look at a deterministic system in action. This slide is one in which I sat in front of google.com, old school Google, like we all know and love, and I put in the search, literally best chicken recipe. What I found is that the result from this search was New York Times cooking article as the #1 spot. So what this tells me is that on the day that I search for best chicken recipe, the New York Times website and this page in particular was, of all the, millions of other chicken recipe pages, was optimized the best for Google's algorithm on that day. So if I happen to have some sort of genius and I really wanted to rank for this chicken recipe keyword, and I had all of the things going for me, like New York Times does, because it's a very authoritative site, I could have actually ended up in the #1 spot as well. So this was a system in which we knew the answers, we knew how to rank, and we knew how to win. Next slide, please. On the same day, I also put a search into ChatGPT. The search option that I happen to enter is the one that you can see here in the middle. It's what's the best chicken dinner for a family on a budget? What I want to explain here is not only the results that ChatGPT gave, but what happened behind the scenes that I never even saw. So when I entered the prompt, what's the best chicken dinner for a family on a budget? What we don't see is that AI engines like ChatGPT actually take your prompt and they cluster it together with a series of other related prompts. Again, they want to make sure they have a good idea of what you're asking. The most statistical surefire way to do that is to cluster your one prompt with others that are very closely related. So in this case, maybe one of the prompts that ChatGPT decided was similar is something like chicken recipes under $5 per serving. So note here that why would it have chosen this? Well, in my original prompt, I entered the idea of family on a budget. So $5 per serving may be ChatGPT's understanding of this is what she probably means by budget. Another prompt that ChatGPT could have lumped in with my original was, we know that Karen's searching for the best chicken dinner for a family on a budget. This tells me that she probably has kids. Kids are most often associated with a family. Let's also look at favorite chicken recipes for kids. So again, The idea is that by lumping your prompt in with other very similar prompts will give you an answer that is more representative of what you probably want to see. So that's one half of this equation. I think you're already beginning to see how this is more probabilistic. It's like, let's take all the factors together and give you what we think you really want to know. So on the right side of this slide, you can see that now that ChatGPT has this collection of prompts, it's going to go out and it'll crawl the web, and maybe it doesn't pull up New York Times because maybe ChatGPT thinks, you know what, this is great, but it might not really be what Karen wants to see. Let's give her some options that we think better fit her intent. So in this case, ChatGPT, excuse me, actually gave me 3 different types of responses to consider. The one on the top right is a video from YouTube. On the middle, we have recent chicken recipes. One of these is actually from Southern Living. The other is Jennifer Garner's favorite recipe. And then finally, and this is where it gets very tricky, on the bottom right, ChatGPT actually created a table for me. So it actually put together this nice little cooking tips and comparisons table. And it says, you know what? Here's how long this chicken is going to take. Here's what it tastes like. And it's probably best for this type of occasion. So as you can see, the responses and the results that we get from generative search are really, really rich and powerful. And so what we want to talk about today is how can we position your brand and your content to provide AI the answers that it's looking for with respect to your customers. All right, next slide, please. So wrapping up this section, the easiest way for me to think about it is that if we use the analogy of a librarian, this is going to be Google and traditional SEO. So you walk into the library, you say, hey, Google, I really want to learn more about chicken recipes. Google will say, great, Karen, go to shelf number 3B. We have this nice Dewey Decimal System. Go pull your book off the shelf. This will give you a whole collection of chicken recipes. When we think about AI SEO or ChatGPT, in this case, it may be a conversation that I'm having. And I may say, okay, ChatGPT, can you show me some chicken recipes? ChatGPT will say, sure. Why don't you tell me, like, do you like spicy chicken? Do you like mild chicken? Are you looking for low fat options? Or maybe you're on a paleo diet. And then based on my responses, I'll actually write out a book created just for you, Karen, with all the best chicken recipes. But the key is, in order for ChatGPT to write me that book, it actually has to find all of that really detailed chicken content from your brand, assuming that your brand sells chicken. So next slide, please. All right. So the other big mistake that that brands tend to make, and this is frankly, I think, just a mind shift, it's just going to take us a little bit of time, is assuming that your owned domain is enough. So what I mean by that is in the sort of older days of traditional SEO, we would have brand.com or yourbrand.com. And because Google was not quite as sophisticated, the content within our brand was much more likely to rank if people were searching for that information. What you'll see as we go through these slides is that AI SEO really pulls from a much wider variety of sources. You kind of got a glimpse of it with the ChatGPT chicken recipes. We saw YouTube, we saw Southern Living. The same thing is true no matter what you're searching. AI SEO pulls from a much wider distribution of content rather than just your website. Next slide, please. All right, super. So the takeaway from section 1, traditional Google search is deterministic. Generative search or AI engines is probabilistic. And finally, you can't rely on your own brand-owned domain because, again, AI search really does pull from a variety of different sources. All right, so section 2, this is really where franchises shine. What we are seeing is that local AI SEO is able to connect your corporate authority on your brand domain with community credibility. So we're seeing that if you do both, that combination really does drive trust and also conversion. Next slide, please. Okay, perfect. So this is, I think, such a fun section to go through. We decided to do an experiment. We wanted to see what happens when we ask the same exact question or the same prompt to 3 different engines. The question was, where can I find a gym nearby that offers women-only classes? And we looked at traditional search in Google, and then we also looked at 2 options in generative search or AI search. The 2 options that we looked at were Google AI mode and Chat GPT. There may be some of you on the phone that are not on the phone, excuse me, on the call today that aren't familiar with Google AI mode. Just so you know, I've illustrated it here. If you go to google.com, Google has sneakily inserted a little button on the right hand of the search bar that says AI mode. If you enter a search or a prompt and you press that button, you'll actually be taken to a new window and you'll be in the Gemini experience, which is basically Google's answer to ChatGPT. It's the same idea. So anything that you search for in AI mode is going to be modeled on these probabilistic AI systems. It's a different foundation than Google. And that's really important to know as we look at the results from this study. So next slide, please. All right, so the first thing that we did was to ask google.com, where can I find gyms nearby that offer women-only classes? This is a screenshot from the search that we performed a few days ago. And what you can see here is that immediately I get an AI overview. Probably not a big surprise. We've done click-through studies and we're able to determine that the top right image that you can see here circled is actually the most commonly clicked response, if there is a click, in an AI overview. And in this case, when I clicked on it, it actually took me to the Curves homepage. You can see a screenshot of sections of the Curves homepage. Full disclosure, this is not the page verbatim as it appears. But what I've done here is to sort of cherry pick parts of the page that really promote the idea of women-specific content. So women's health and fitness clubs, strengthening women inside and out, movements featured in the Curves workout, all of these have messaging on the brand-owned domain of curves.com that really makes sure that we're speaking specifically to women. And what you can see here is that this is a Google search. And in this case, Google does prioritize yourbrand.com. So Google in general prioritizes your brand. Next slide, please. Super. So we did the same search in Google AI mode. Remember, that's the little button that you press, and that's going to be a generative search. And what we found in Google AI mode is really interesting. We get curves again, but this time instead of the Curves site, we actually are taken to the Yelp page. So this is an example that in AI mode, we get similar content, but we're taking it down a level. We're now a little further down the funnel and we're getting directory listings. So next slide, please. And then finally, we asked ChatGPT, same exact question, where can I find a gym nearby? So ChatGPT knows that I'm from Oregon. I'm actually from a little ski town called Bend. If any of you have been here, welcome. We love our visitors. And what ChatGPT found when I entered this search were local sort of boutique businesses. It actually pulled out of the first option called Northwest BOD, BOD. And you can see here that the interesting thing is that this listing is from a blog, sort of a local influencer site. So this is not from the local domain. It's not from northwestbod.com. It's not from a directory listing. This is just a local influencer who happens to take classes there, and she has a blog post. And she says specifically, Northwest Bod focuses primarily on women-only classes. So this is an example of influencer content and how those very sort of niche preferences end up getting surfaced within ChatGPT. Next slide, please. All right, great. And so finally, I'm curious at this point because I've asked Google. Google 2 times gave me curves. I know that curves is a bigger name. I asked ChatGPT. I said, "Look, ChatGPT, why didn't you return curves in the results?" In my mind, it would be more logical because curves has all of this brand authority. It's very well known, and we know that brand authority does matter. But here's where it gets really interesting. ChatGPT said, you know what? I didn't return curves because of 3 reasons. Number one, you have minimal local SEO and sparse local listings. So your online presence is fragmented. They also said that your local SEO is inconsistent. Your name, address, and phone data doesn't always match. So I'm not really sure that I trust you. And then finally, the one that I actually think is most interesting is number 2. And this says the query I used emphasized women only classes rather than women only gyms. So ChatGPT understands that I'm searching for a class, that I want an instructor, I want other women, I want a specific time. I don't necessarily just want to go in the gym and get on an elliptical and work out for an hour. Actually, probably more like 10 minutes if it's me, but you get the idea. So again, this just tells me that these are all very traditional SEO strategies. Like, it is not rocket science. And hopefully this gives you some level of comfort that yes, the game is changing, but if we just stay the course and do things that we've always done in traditional SEO through a different lens, we will continue to show up in results, even if it's ChatGPT. So next slide, please. Super. So this one I think really does do a nice job of wrapping up this section. And basically what we're saying is that we do need yourbrand.com. We need that corporate brand SEO site. And then we also need local AI SEO. If we do these together, this is really how we're going to help build our brand across the omni-channel. So across all of these different media types, like traditional publications and social media, user-generated content, etc. All right, perfect. Next slide. Great. So we know that traditional search and generative search behave differently. They're foundationally different algorithms. And again, if we want to really build visibility across the omni-channel, brand owned domain, local directory listings, and user-generated content. Next slide, please. All right, super. So the last section, I said, spoiler alert, I know we're almost out of time, so I'm going to get through this one relatively quickly, but it's super, super important. So let's go ahead and move on to the next slide. All right, so Now that we have all of these AI tools at our fingertips and we know we can do things like build content more easily, it makes us accountable to shift that time savings to our content strategy. I cannot stress this enough. We need to spend more time looking at audience profiling and content alignment. And this is where it becomes more important than ever to highlight key differentiators like AUV, corporate support, etc. So next slide, please. All right, super. So this is just a quick example of how to build out audience profiles. This is for the franchise audience. So I have two profiles here as examples. On the left, we have our end user. These are customers that might be searching for your services. And on the right-hand side, if you're looking to recruit new potential franchisees, these might be stages that an investor may go through as he or she sort of considers options for investing in a franchise. The idea is before you start building the content, understand who your audience is and understand what questions that audience wants answered. So next slide, please. These are some examples of questions that an investor may be asking. Next slide. And here you can see I'm going to go through these relatively quickly, but these are all examples of ChatGPT responding to questions that investors in a franchise may be asking for. And I think you'll see that having content that it directly gets at these very niche questions, and also, by the way, very high converting questions, is really key to making sure that you get ahead of the types of questions that are out there. So in this case, when we asked ChatGPT what franchises offer a high AUV, it came back with, I think you say this, Din Tai Fung, and this is a Taiwanese restaurant. Note that ChatGPT knows the AUV. It also gives you a quick overview. So it always gives you a little bit extra. It's always trying to make sure that you're happy. And next slide, please. This one is for Home Instead. They came up top for support from corporate for investors and owners. Again, two things to note here. This is actually from the Home Instead domain. And you can see in ChatGPT's answer, look at the way that it breaks this down. Not only does it tell you they offer comprehensive training, they have national office support, they have a peer-to-peer network. This is all information that Home Instead proactively built out to get ahead of the curve. So this is a very, very smart strategy that Home Instead is using because it's meeting the audience where they have questions. Next slide, please. This one is for Raising Cane's. The thing that I like about this one is this really is probably a PR strategy, given that this result is in the US Sun, where we see a lot of sort of paid PR content. And this is just another option, right? If you're having trouble getting partner links, you can always partner with your PR team. Again, note here that ChatGPT gives us extra information. And then finally, this last example, next slide, please, is for Kona Ice. This one comes from Franchise Business Review. They were a recipient of Culture 100 awards. And next slide. Great. So if we think about the platform options that we have to start to really sprinkle our brand information across all different channels, this is a great table to look and see, okay, this is the kind of information that I want to get out there. What options do I have for maybe where I would put that? And what is the intent that it's really trying to fill? So this is just a quick reference that you can come back to as you build out your content strategy. And next slide. So section 3 takeaway, devote ample time, right? We have all of these things that are speeding our lives up, but also making it faster and easier for us to get content out there. If we don't take time to understand our audience and to make sure that we are answering the questions that they have, they will find it somewhere else. So take ample time to develop a strategy. The second is that, and we didn't get into this too much, but this is again hopefully obvious by the content that we've gone through. As we answer those questions, you know how your brand differentiates itself. You know what your unique value proposition is. Just continue to have that as your North Star. Make sure that as you develop content to answer these questions, that you always come back to that and that you say it again and again and again, and that you're consistent, because ultimately that's what's going to set you apart from the competition. And next slide, please. And that's what I have for today. So in closing, I just want us to understand that, again, we need to think in terms of prompts, not keywords. And we need to create content that really answers, the how and the why for the questions that our audience is asking. The way people search has changed, right? We know that creating content that answers real questions is going to build trust and brand presence across every location. Section number 2, your corporate brand SEO, that's your foundation. It defines your reputation and authority. But local SEO is really your competitive weapon for scaling and for growing. So it's a blend of the two. And then finally, section 3, visibility is about being strategic and about aligning your content. So if you take these 3 principles and you operationalize them, your brand doesn't just stay visible, it becomes unmissable. So right now, the opportunity we have for AI SEO is, again, it's, I think, the biggest change that I've seen over the last decade. And it's a matter of being strategic and being smart and not losing sight of traditional SEO foundations, but of moving forward in a very orchestrated, methodical way. So thank you very much for having me today. I know I've gone a little bit over time. I can definitely, Lauren, I'm going to check in with you. How are we doing with time for Q&A?
It looks like there's 1 or 2 questions. If folks still want to stay on and you just want to answer those super quickly, that'd be great.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So I'm seeing one question from Alberto. Is grabbing AUV from websites or FDDs? That's a great question. FDDs, if they're in PDF format or even HTML format, are definitely crawlable. The short answer is both. So if AUV is listed on a website, similar to the example that we saw for the Taiwanese restaurant, ChatGPT will certainly get it from the website. If an FDD is published online, again, even if it's in a PDF, that's also crawlable information. So it could certainly come from that avenue as well. Let's see. So I just got a question from Srinath. How do you see backlinks playing a role with authority in AI? This is a great question, Srinath. It's something that we talk about internally. Authority is certainly one of the factors that does contribute to showing up in AI. I don't know if it's as big of a factor yet because AI algorithms are still not quite as sophisticated as they could be. So I think for now, I would tend to deprioritize them in favor of good content. Let's see. Alberto has another question. How are Google local service ads impacted by this, especially local AI search? So I don't think I don't think there is a good answer for this industry wide. My guess is that local AI search is going to rely much more heavily on GBPs on your Google Business Profile and other directory listings, not on local service ads. I don't think that ad data is crawled nearly as much and prioritized nearly as much as organic data. Let's see, anything else? I think those are all the questions that I have. Thank you everyone so much for coming out today. Really appreciate the opportunity to speak to you about AI SEO. And I hope to speak to everyone again soon. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much. This was excellent content and excellent feedback from all of you. We really do appreciate it. Again, this webinar was recorded and along with the presentation deck will appear on our website early this evening. You'll be able to find that at franchise.org. Thank you very much again to Karen and the Ignite Visibility team for sponsoring today's webinar. And again, thank you to everyone for tuning in. Have a great rest of your day and stay safe and healthy. Bye.